I've been using Firepower, Cisco Firepower since now multiple years, around 4 or 5 years. Currently in production, I'm using the Cisco Firepower version 6.7 with the latest patch, and we are starting to roll out the 7.0. Today, I have multiple customers running Cisco Firepower on-prem, and more of them are going through the cloud and using Cisco Firepower on AWS, for example, and Azure. We have multiple use cases for Cisco Firepower. We have two types of use cases. One is to protect the perimeter of the enterprise, and the other is more to do VRF interzoning routing. The goal is to do some firewall protection, in addition with layer 7 features like URL filtering, IPS, malware at the perimeter level, and also to inspect the traffic going through that firewall. As all traffic is encrypted, we want to have the visibility and make sure that we can protect ourselves the maximum as we can. If we are talking about the final release, the IPS is one of the top feature I love. On the beta side, we had some extra features that are coming in the next release, maybe, but I'm not sure that we can go into the details for the beta side. I mean, if you configure the Firepower, the Cisco Firepower, the way it has to be based on the Cisco recommendations, you can view all the traffic and you can have the full visibility in terms of application support, also the URL categorization you can have, and then you can inspect also in terms of malware, whatever file is exchanged between this communication. What we love also is to interconnect the Cisco Firepower with some Cisco ICE appliances, so we can do some kind of threat containment. If something is, let's say, is seen as a virus coming in from a user, we can directly tell Cisco ICE to block that user right away. I mean, when you start with the Cisco Firepower management console, you need to have some kind of few days to get used to it. But after that, once you know all the menus, it's kind of easy to find your way out and to analyze the traffic, not only in terms of firewall, but also in terms of IPS or SSL decryption. It's the different views are split in a way that can help you to troubleshoot really what you want to troubleshoot, and not to have everything in one view. I mean, for the first thing I can say in terms of improvement of Cisco Firepower, it's the dashboard of the FMC. It's the UI. It's like 2021 UI now instead of what it was before. It's easy to use, easy to navigate. Also, the push of the config. At the beginning, it was very slow. Now we are able to push some configs right away very, very quickly. And we are getting new features at each release. For example, the rollback situation, when you're applying something and you did a bad configuration, you can quickly roll back where before it was not there. So a lot of improvement in terms of UI and in terms of configuration. Yeah, it's what I was saying before. We are implementing Cisco Firepower at the inter VRF level, so we can have some segmentation, for example, between ACI, and all the inter VRF is done through the Firepower to be able to inspect the traffic that is locally on the east-west side. I mean, it's great to use Cisco Firepower as a segmentation, because now on the Firepower we have also a feature called VRF. So you can also expand the VRF you have locally on your network back to the firewall, and you can be able to do some more tweaking, more segmentation related here based on before, where everything was coming into a one single bucket, and you had to play around with some features to make sure that the leaking of the prefixes was not advertised. Now we are really working towards a segmentation in terms of routing and the firepower. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it helps a lot. For example, if I can take one concrete example, is with Cisco ACI for the data center. Not only we are doing what's called a service graph on the ACI to make sure that we can filter traffic east-west between two endpoints which are on the same network, but also when we go north-south or even east-west, we can leverage what we have on the network with SGTs on Cisco ICE. So it's very easy. Once you build your matrix, it's very easy to filter the traffic you want in and out on east-west or north-south. Today, the only use cases we have for dynamic policies is something that we are leveraging the API on the Cisco Firepower Management Console to push some config or to change the config. But there is no feature that is built automatically on the FMC to build a new policy, for example. We are leveraging the APIs. Yeah, sure. We've seen a lot of improvements on Cisco Firepower when Snort 3 came along. Before with Snort 2, we were able to do some stuff, but the bandwidth was impacted. With Snort 3, we have much better performances now. With Snort 3, it's not related, honestly, to Snort 3 here in terms of threat defense, but we have a feature of TLS 1.3 where we can see applications without doing any SSL inspection that can increase the performance of the firewall without doing some deep dive inspection, but at the same time we keep some kind of visibility of what application is going through. So we have a win-win situation when we want to protect against some specific applications. Yeah, I mean, this question about Cisco Firepower reducing costs, it really depends on the architecture you are on. I have seen on some of my customers, the answer is totally yes, but on some of them, it's not really true. So it's kind of difficult to say yes or no. The improvement I would like to see on the Cisco Firepower is on the way you create policies on the IPS Snort 3. On the Snort 2, it was more a UI like page where you can you had some multiple choice where you can tweak your config. On the Snort 3, the idea is more to build some rules on the text file or JSON file and then push it. So here, I would like to see a lot of improvement. Oh, I mean, it's honestly the implementation, the initial setup on the Cisco Firepower, it's very, very easy. I'm working with a lot more other vendors of firewalls, and Cisco Firepower is one of the best today, one of the easiest here. I mean, the minimum time depends on really what you want to do, but if you just want to initiate a quick setup with some IPs, if you have already deployed the console, the Firepower Management Console, it's less than 1 hour. It's very, very easy. What takes more time is deploying the OVA of the Cisco Firepower Management Console and doing all the cabling stuff. All the rest is very, very easy. And if you're working without the Firepower Management Console and using Firepower Device Manager, with Cisco CDO on the cloud, it's even easier. It's like a Meraki setup where you just plug in and the plug and play, everything is going to kind of be connected to the cloud. So it's very, very easy. I'm working for a Cisco professional services partner, and when we do that, we have only one guy deploying the devices. So we don't require a big team to deploy that. Then in terms of configuration, it takes more people based on each people's skills because you have multiple areas, firewalls, IPS, NATs, routing. So it depends on which skills we require the most. In terms of firepower stability, in the past with older versions, we had some kind of issues with the Snort 2 CPUs, but I would say since 6.4, 6.4 towards now, I never have seen any big issues. I mean, we have some issues like other vendors, but not in terms of stability. Some few bugs, but stability is this is something that is rock solid in terms of firepower. Again, the Cisco firepower scalability, it's something that can be done easily if you respect the best practice, if you don't have any specific use cases. But it's kind of easy. For example, if I take a concrete example on one of my customers who is moving to the cloud, we have one FMC and he is popping new firepower devices on the cloud and just attaching them to the existing policy, existing NAT. It's done in few minutes. It's very, very easy to do that. I mean, when you open a Cisco tag support for the Cisco FMC, it's something that you are quite confident because the engineer onboarding right away is someone who has the skills and can help you out very quickly and very easily. Again, I mean, this is something that is true 90% of the time. For sure, you have always some kind of 10% of the time where you are fighting to get the right guy. But honestly, most of the time is something that the guy on board and right away helps you out. Yeah, I worked with Palo Alto and Fortinet and Sophos as well. To be totally objective, I worked a lot more with Palo Alto and Cisco Firepower. So I find these two to be very easy in terms of management operations. Fortinet is also a vendor where we can see a ease of use as well. It's more in terms of troubleshooting that is, I mean, for me, more complex than the Firepower and Palo Alto. Sophos for me would be the hardest one. It's always the question customers ask, and it's kind of hard to answer very objectively to this one. I mean, where I found the one I love more on Cisco Firepower is the IPS, where you can do more tweaking compared to the others. Where I love more Palo Alto and Fortinet, maybe compared to Firepower, is that you still have CLI access to some configs instead of doing through the UI and pushing some configs. So when you are in big troubles, sometimes command line is easier to push a lot more config than doing some click and push into the UI. I mean, today when we are fighting against other competitors with customers, even on the small businesses or even on the big businesses, we are quite the same price, and I feel very comfortable with the price that the Firepower is today. Yeah, I mean, and this is today, since SecureX has been released, this is a big advantage on Cisco Firepower, where you can give a tool to a customer to do some analysis where before he was doing it manually. So it's a very, very big advantage. The other advantage would be the Talos database. That is a big advantage compared to the others. It's a hard question. It's a big lesson I have learned. Yeah, it requires, compared to the other vendors, maybe it requires a more deep dive skills on the IPS stuff to make it work and to make sure that you're protected. Because if you go with the basic one, which are in the package, you will be protected, but not so much. Yeah, I mean, this is it. Having more deep dive knowledge on the IPS to be sure that you can tweak that and you can protect yourself. I mean, the only advice is not to just look at the data sheet that vendors are publishing, because yes, sometimes it makes sense, but in the reality, these documents are made based on specific use cases. So just do a tryout, do a proof of concept, and test every single features. And I'm sure you will find your way out that Cisco Firepower is way better and way tweakable than the others. I mean, yeah, good 8. Yeah, good 8, between 8 and 9. The only thing that I'm not giving a full 9 is the Snort 3 operation, where I said before that I think there is a need of improvement here. But yeah, 8, between 8 and 9.